We're just having a little bit of technical issue in the beginning, but I think we have it under control now. So we welcome Her Grace Malati Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna, welcome. She has spoken on this forum before, and with popular demand, she's back again. And today we have a very, very special talk. The title of the talk is Celebrating Krishna's Great Upholder of Material Energy, Durga Devi. As you all may be aware, we are in the middle of what is known as Navaratri, and all over the world, Durga Devi is being celebrated. Not quite as much this year as last year, but there's still that observation is going on, and it's quite an amazing energy of the Lord that we want to hear about, and we look forward to hearing this. We don't hear it enough. We don't, it's not something that is very commonly discussed in our classes, so we are very eager to hear from her. So we welcome her. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So then you're going to put the little video on now?
Okay.
So before beginning, Hare Krishna, everybody, there's just a little 60-second clip to get us in the mood of my discussion. And today on the ISKCON calendar, it's written Durga Puja, which gave me the idea to speak about this in terms of our Vaishnav practices. So you want to go ahead? Is it happening?
Yeah, can you hear?
No, I can't even see it.
We can see the screen, but there's no sound coming through.
What? There was sound yesterday when we tested it.
Ishadullah Prabhu, can you hear sound when you play it?
No, I can't.
That's half of the thing, is that sound that, puts out a mood. Well, what to do? I don't even see it. Anyway, fortunately, it's only 60 seconds.
Let me see if I can do it.
Why? Well, there's the sound, right? So you got a little flavor anyway.
Yeah, you get the flavor of some of that sound, yeah.
Okay. So, Om Yantamirandasya Janana Sakalaya Chakshu Militam Vinatosme Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachada Satarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vicha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we are prisoners of choice, living in the material world. And because it's by choice, we could also smash the locks for freedom. This is the most awaited time in the year in West Bengal, the month of Durga Puja. And it's the largest festival in the state of West Bengal, which is the origin, the birthplace of the Durga Puja. It was mentioned in the 1300s, 1400s, but even before that, like 300 BC, there was some mention in some ancient accounts. Anyway, later on, this festival spread across eastern India and states like Assam, Odisha, Bihar, and from West Bengal. And it's highly popular. So we should try to understand Durga from our Vaishnav perspective. The word Durga literally means impassable, invincible, unassailable, fortress. It's related to the word Durg, which means fortress, something difficult to defeat or pass. She appeared when the demigods were unable to subdue a demon, Mahisha. His name was Mahisha, and he was threatening the entire world. Individually, the gods were unable to defeat this demon. So they summoned Durga and gave her all their weapons. And the battle was prolonged by the fact that Mahisha continually changed shapes. He was a shape changer. Actually, the Native American Indians, some of them were quite mystics. And especially among the Apache tribe, they were having people who could change shapes, even up until the previous century. I can't say now, but definitely in the previous century. So anyway, finally, Durga was able to cut off his head as the demon was emerging from a buffalo. So rarely Durga is understood because her manifestation is actually dual in nature, with the one aspect known as Yogamaya and the other aspect known as Mahamaya. And when one accepts this dual nature of Durga, it's easier to understand her. Yogamaya is the personal potency of Lord Krishna's energy, and Mahamaya originates from Yogamaya. In other words, Yogamaya is the form of Devi Durga who shows her nature of a caring mother and bestows the required facilities to progress in spiritual life and performs activities which clean the heart of practicing devotees. However, this can sometimes generally appear very harsh, but it's for the benefit of the devotees to help them establish their personal relationships with Krishna. So in the Bhagavatam, now this particular part, this one thing that I'm just going to mention, I took it from an ISKCON site, and they mentioned a Bhagavatam verse, but they had the wrong, like I looked up because I always fact check things, and the verse didn't match what they put, but I'm still mentioning what they said. And Durga bestows pure devotion towards Lord Krishna. She's the Vaishnavi Shakti, for the Vaishnavas. And she gives final liberation to those who want such. And she gives happiness for those who just want happiness, deriving from the material side. Mahamaya is that form of Durga which can be compared to a mother that becomes angry when her child follows the wrong path. So then she focuses on punishing them. Mahamaya has affection and love for those children, but she deals with them in such a manner to make the child realize their faults and overcome them. So the illusions created by Mahamaya set the stage for false enjoyment by the living entities, causing miseries due to sense gratification. But this aspect is not seen in Yogamaya, who only plays her role in the spiritual world. She's actually the potency to control Mahamaya when so instructed by Lord Krishna himself. When a devotee is practicing devotion to Lord Krishna and is disturbed by Mahamaya, this disturbance is there until all sense gratification desires are destroyed under the instruction of Krishna. So under the instruction of Krishna, Yogamaya induces Mahamaya to remove her illusory energy from the devotee's surrounding in order to obtain pure devotional service. However, interestingly enough, the illusion still continues in the spiritual world, but it's in a different manner. It's in a liberated manner in the spiritual world. Yogamaya covers the liberated souls with her power of illusion in such a way that they're unaware of Krishna's real identity as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because were they to understand that form of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then they could only react with awe and reverence. And thus they could not relate to him as a friend or a lover or a parent, so forth. So if Yogamaya would not extend her illusion in this way, the souls would realize Krishna's actual identity and become incapable of interacting with him in these personal, intimate ways. So nowadays, people relate to Durga as a sister of Lord Krishna. However, this is only applicable in Vrindavan Leela of Lord Krishna in Gokuldham. So there's these two forms, Mahamaya, who governs the material world, and Yogamaya, who governs the spiritual world. So Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 7:12, all states of being, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are manifested as my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I'm independent. I'm never under the modes of material nature. On the contrary, they are under me. So all material activities in this world are being conducted under the three modes of material nature. And although these modes of material nature are emanations from the Supreme Lord, Krishna, he is not subject to them. And that is one of the special characteristics of Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this Durga Puja, aka also known as Navaratri, occurs over a 9-day period during the month of Ashwin, usually September, October. And the Bhagavad Gita verse 17:14, the Lord explains about the austerity of the body. In the purport, Prabhupada writes, one should not do anything which is not sanctioned by scriptural injunctions. So as long as we're in this material world, it is understood we're in a prison. And the head of this prison is Durga Devi. As prisoners, we are given a particular type of uniform, this material body. And just like in the regular prison, they're given a particular uniform and it has these stripes on it. Of course, backspace a moment, the uniform is not just in the material world, is not just the human body, it's a plant body or an animal body. So many different types of bodies. But this body means we have a uniform. And this uniform, this body is a uniform of prisoners. And as the prison uniforms have stripes, similarly, if we mark stripes, tilak, on the uniform of our body, we will become willing prisoners of Krishna and not Durga. It is by our choice. So Durga Devi is working under the directions of Krishna as expressed in the Brahma Samhita. Shristi Stiti Pralaya Saranasa Chireka Chayeva Yashabhuvanani Vivati Durga Ichanurupamapi Yasha Chachataste Sa Govindamari Prusham Tamahang Bhajami. The external potency Maya, who is the nature of the shadow of the chit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Thus, Durga, as powerful as she is not independent nor the controller. Rather, she's acting under the direction of Supreme Lord Krishna, just as a shadow follows the substance. One of Krishna's opulences is that he is supremely detached. And when a living entity wants to forget him, Krishna immediately deploys his illusory energy to facilitate the foolishness of the conditioned soul. And that illusory energy is Durga. I read something really sweet yesterday that Prabhupada had written in 1998 to a devotee, and mentioning the different the difficulties in the material world and how they come from, and how Krishna gives this forgetfulness and he gives memory, remembrance. So he said that the devotee therefore can pray, my dear Krishna, please help me forget this horrible material world, and please help me remember your lotus feet. So Durga has two sons, Ganesh and Kartikeya, and one daughter whose name is Ashokasundari. Durga is seen standing with Lakshmi and Saraswati, and she carries 20 weapons in her arms, which represent various pious activities enjoined in the Vedas. And she holds a snake in her hand, representing the beauty of destructive time. She trampled the demon Mahashura, showing how she tramples over the vices of the world. Now, when you consider these different images that we see of Durga, some of them are really, they could appear rather frightening. But when you start to understand what's behind her rough appearance, her terrifying appearance, it reminds me how Prabhupada explained the appearance of Nrsingadev, who is very fearful for many people when they see this half man, half lion, and huge nails, roaring mouth, great teeth. So he said it's just like a policeman. When the policeman is seen in his uniform and is seen by the good citizens, they feel protected. Of course, that was in the old days. I don't know if it stands nowadays, but anyway, for the sake of understanding, you feel protected when you see the policeman. That's his duty, to protect the good citizens. But if you're a criminal, you want to go the other way and hide. So in the same way, Durga is presenting herself in a most fearful form. And yet, for the devotees, they take solace in her appearance. When the jiva souls forget their eternal relationship with Krishna, they're put into Durga's realm, and the veil of karma acts as the instrument for punishing the rebellious jiva. Durga's business to punish rebellious jivas, but as already explained, it's actually not punishment. It's meant for reform. It's meant to help them rectify. And when somebody is sent into prison, it's really meant to reform them. It's actually meant to help them. So Durga carries a trident, and this trident is called Trishul. And Trishul is representing the threefold material miseries, Adhyatmika, Adhibhutika, and Adhidaivika. And every moment in life, everyone without exception suffers due to one or two or all three of these miseries. And these miseries are the trefoil of Durga. She's constantly pricking the jivas with her trefoil, her trident, with the idea to wake up the jiva, not punishing. So Sanatana Goswami, our Sambandhana Guru, he approached Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he was asking, why am I suffering? Now, when somebody asks this question, it's the beginning of human life. The animals, they're suffering, but they don't question. So it's a particular aspect. When we say so often this rare form of human life, probably every lecture you'll hear that once or twice or more times even. But the rarity is in that the human being can inquire, why am I suffering? And the Vedas and the spiritual master can give us knowledge. You're not this body. You're the soul. The soul is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. So when a person becomes a devotee of Krishna, Durga becomes very happy to help him go back to Godhead. And then that same personality who is keeping you here in the material world becomes the instrument that helps you transcend the material world. So we all have 33 cores of demigods present everywhere in our bodies, controlling. And she's their mother. So when she sees the jiva advance in Krishna consciousness, she orders the devatas to clear out, go away, leave them alone. This is what she wants. She doesn't want to keep anyone prisoned in this world forever. The Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur once commented, Durga Puja is dancing. Durga Puja is dancing, but not for Hindi songs, taking intoxication. The dancing of the actual Durga Puja is not for Hindi songs or taking intoxication and having fun, as is commonly seen nowadays. But the real Durga Puja is to become a Krishna Bhakta, and then Durga will be really happy. But if we worship her in any way we like, whimsically, Srila Prabhupada said, they are fools. This body is her property. So ultimately, she's going to take over our body at the time of death. So they're worshiping her means they're worshiping their own death. So we don't perform Durga Puja as fools for material comforts, but we perform Durga Puja by becoming Krishna's devotees, Krishna Bhaktas. Srila Prabhupada identified Durga Devi as Maya in his purport to the Srimad Bhagavatam 3:23-57. He said, actually, the illusory material energy is cheating everyone. People don't know what they're doing when they worship the material energy of the form of goddess Kali or Durga for material boons. And they ask, Mother, give me great riches, give me good wife, give me fame, give me victory. But such devotees of the goddess Maya or Durga, they don't know that they're being cheated by that goddess. Material achievement is actually no achievement, because as soon as one is illusioned by the so-called material gifts, he becomes more and more entangled, and there's no question of liberation. However, the name Durga doesn't always refer to Krishna's illusory energy by which we're all bewildered in the material world. So there's the example of the cowherd girls in Vrindavan, the gopis, and they were praying to Durga in her form of Katyani in order to get Krishna as their husband. We read about this in Krishna book. And the gopis are Krishna's dearest devotees, so they're not ignorantly seeking illusory happiness. So in the purport of 10.22.4, which I think came from Vishnu, because Prabhupada didn't write this purport. So the background is from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. But we see this commentary on Durga and Maya. According to various acharyas, the goddess Durga mentioned in this verse is not the illusory energy of Krishna called Maya, but rather the internal potency of the Lord known as Jogamaya. And the distinction between the internal and external are the illusory potency of the Lord. It's described in the Narada Pancharatra in a conversation between Shruti and Vidya. So that conversation mentions that the Lord's inferior potency, known as Durga, is dedicated to his loving service. Being the Lord's potency, this inferior energy is non-different from him, but there is another superior energy whose form is on the same spiritual level as that of the Lord himself. Simply by scientifically understanding the supreme potency, one can immediately achieve the supreme soul of all souls, who is the Lord of all lords, and there is no other process to achieve him. That supreme potency of the Lord is known as and Gokuleshwari, the goddess of Gokul. Her nature is to be completely absorbed in love of God, and through her, one can easily obtain the primeval Lord of all that be. And this internal potency of the Lord has a covering potency known as Mahamaya, who rules the material world. She bewilders the entire universe, and thus everyone within the universe falsely identifies with this temporary material body. So in the Pancharatra, it also mentions that in all the mantras used to worship Krishna, the presiding deity is known as Durga. So thus, in the transcendental sound vibrations glorifying and worshiping the absolute truth Krishna, the presiding deity of the particular mantra is called Durga. And the name Durga, therefore, refers also to that personality who functions as the internal potency of the Lord, and who is thus on the platform of Suddhasattva, pure transcendental existence. So this internal potency is understood to be Krishna's sister, known as Ekanamsa or Subhadra. And this is the Durga who was worshipped by the gopis in Vrindavan. Several acharyas have pointed out that ordinary people are sometimes bewildered, and they think the name Mahamaya and Durga refer exclusively to the external potency of the Lord. The distinction between the internal and external, or this illusory potency of the Lord, sorry, I missed a point here. Anyways, I'm going. One who desires good. So then there's a whole area where you can actually, this comes from Bhagavatam and other Shastra, what describes when and where to approach different personalities, such as from 2-3 in the Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 3rd chapter. And one who desires good children should worship the great progenitors called Prajapatis. One who desires good fortune should worship Durga Devi, the superintendent of the material world. So the Krishna, my computer and I are having a moment. So Durga Puja celebrations are the biggest, costliest, most exotic festivals in Eastern India, particularly West Bengal. And it's become more of an expression of art and extravagance rather than actually performing any rituals. And to add to all that glitz and fun and mood of the people over the years, it's become in vogue that celebrities and political leaders inaugurate Durga Puja in various places. So, interestingly enough, a few days ago, much to the surprise of the people, in Kalyani Ward number 2, Durga Puja Barwari in Nadia district, the inauguration took place amongst beating of mridungas, clashing of kartals, and chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and dancing before the deities of Ma Durga, Lakshmi, Ganesh, and Kartikeya. And they constructed their pandal, the marquee housing the deities, following the design of the upcoming Temple of Vedic Planetarium. So it was the first time that a group of 45 ISKCON devotees from different ethnic backgrounds were given this privilege to inaugurate the Durga Puja. And there were senior devotees from Mayapur, Gurukul devotees and the brahmacharis, etc. So they started the proceedings by, the smashing of the coconuts and chanting auspicious Vedic mantras by the Gurukul students under the guidance of Krishna Chaitanya Das. And then this was followed by the melodious kirtan, but gradually the kirtan was gaining momentum, and the energy of the dancing mixed with the resounding musical instruments, and the entire gathering was spellbound, hearing Krishna's beautiful name at a time when they normally were hearing other sounds. It was mentioned by one of the spokespersons that beating the normal trend, we were thrilled to be invited to inaugurate Durga Puja Festival, and it gave us a good platform to highlight the relationship of Goddess Durga with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So our ISKCON mission is to worship and spread the mission of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. And as the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, which ISKCON follows, Durga is revered as a demigod and the external energy of Krishna by the devotees. So we seek her blessings to advance on the path of bhakti to Krishna. This was by Subroto Das, who is the media spokesperson for ISKCON Mayapur. So this Navaratri begins a night of worship and a celebration in honor of Durga's avatar. So this is the first night, there's 9, Navaratri 9, Shaila Putri, whose name means daughter of the mountains. And on the second day of Navaratri, the Hindus worship Brahmacharini, whose name means one who practices devout austerities. And they believe she endows happiness, peace, and prosperity and grace on the devotees who worship her. And they feel that she is the way to moksha. Then on the third night, Chandraganta is the manifestation, and she represents peace, tranquility, and prosperity in life. On the fourth night, Kushmanda is the fourth form of the mother goddess, and her name means creator of the universe. And she's the one who brought light to the dark cosmos. Then on the fifth night, Skandamata, she is the mother of Skanda, our Lord Kartikeya, who is chosen by the gods as their commander-in-chief in the war against the demons. And then we've already mentioned Katyayani. She's worshipped on the sixth night of Navaratri. And like Kalaratri, who is worshipped on the following night, Katyayani is a fearful sight. She has wild hair, 18 arms, weapons all over. She has a necklace that is like shooting out like thunderbolts of lightning. Her hair is just like all over the place, like she put her finger in a light socket. And she rides a lion, but actually at all times, she's ready to confront evil. And Kalaratri is also known as Shrubamkari, and her name means one who does good. And she's another fearful looking deity with dark black complexion and disheveled hairs, 4 arms and 3 eyes. Then Mahagauri is worshipped on the 8th night, and her name means extremely white, and this refers to her luminous beauty, which is radiating from her body. And then Siddhidatri is the 9th form of Durga, and celebrated on the night, and her name means giver of supernatural power, and it's believed by the followers that she bestows blessings on all deities and devotees of all faiths. So Durga, the inaccessible, the invincible, is actually the external energy of Krishna, the shadow energy of Krishna. And people in generally worship her, the wife of Lord Shiva, for material prosperity. But as devotees for Krishna, we do not worship demigods or demigoddesses. Srila Prabhupada explains that there is a misconception that there are many gods. He says, actually, this is not a fact. God is one, but there are many other powerful living entities who are in charge of different departments of administration, and these are the demigods. And all the demigods are servants who carry out the orders of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. And only the less intelligent worship the demigods for various purposes. The most intelligent worship only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. We see from Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Adi Leela was an incident where Lord Chaitanya came upon the young women, and they were at the river, they were worshiping for a good husband. And he addressed them, "Worship me. I shall give you good husbands," or good benedictions. "The Ganga and the goddess Durga are my maidservants. What to speak of all other demigods? Even Lord Shiva is my servant." This was Adi Leela 1450. And in the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 2, text 11 and 12, the Lord blessed Maya Devi by saying, "In different places on the surface of the earth, people will give you different names, such as Durga, Bhadrakali, Vijaya, Vaishnavi, Kamuda, Chandrika, Krishna, Madhavi, Kanyaka, Maya, Narayani, Ishani, Sarada, and Ambika. We offer all respects to the demigods because they are servants of Krishna." So in the purport, Prabhupada says that Krishna and his energy appeared simultaneously. People have generally formed two groups. Because Krishna and his energy have appeared simultaneously, people have generally performed two groups, the Shaktas and the Vaishnavas. And sometimes there's rivalry between the two, especially those who are interested in material enjoyment are the Shaktas, and those who are interested in spiritual salvation and attaining the spiritual kingdom, they're the Vaishnavas. And because people are generally interested in material enjoyment, they're interested in worshiping Maya Devi, the energy of the Supreme Lord. The Vaishnavas, however, are Shuddha Bhaktas. They're pure bhaktas because the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra indicates worship of the Lord's energy, Hara. A Vaishnava prays to the energy of the Lord for the opportunity to serve the Lord along with his spiritual energy. And thus Vaishnavas worship deities Radha, Krishna, Sitaram, Lakshmi, Narayan, and Rukmini Dwarkadish, whereas Durga Shaktis worship the material energy under different names. So one who has forgotten the real aim of life may worship Goddess Durga, Maya Shakti, under various names for different purposes in different places. Just like there's many holy places for the worship of Krishna, there are also many holy places in India for the worship of Durga Devi or Maya Devi, who took birth as the daughter of Yasoda after cheating Kamsa. I gotta close my window. Sometimes in New Vrindavan you get heavy-duty traffic at weird hours, like happening right now. So there's the different places of worship for these different personalities. So Yogamaya was requested to attract Shankarshan Baladev from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. And this was a really heavy-duty, bewildering task for her. She couldn't understand how it would be possible for her to attract Shankarshan. And therefore Krishna addressed her as Shubhi, auspicious, and said, "Be blessed, take power from me, and you'll be able to do it." And by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can actually be empowered to do anything. So the present form of Durga worship in Orissa, different ways they use, and we see this also in Calcutta by making these earthen forms. And this was mentioned in the 11th century in Puri. And then recently, in the period of 1512 to 1517, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu paid a visit to Cuttack. And that's the capital of the Gajapati Empire of Orissa. King Prataparuda received him at the Gadagadi Ghat, situated near the riverbank of Mahanadi. And in his paper, his book, Life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur described Lord Chaitanya's travels to Cuttack. And he mentions, upon his arrival at Puri, he saw Lord Jagannath in the temple, and he put up with Sarvabhauma at the request of the latter. So the king, Gajapati Pratapa Rudadev, he was really strongly influenced by Lord Chaitanya's kirtan. And he surrendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and took Diksha from him. And from this point onward, Lord Jagannath became more widely known as Sri Krishna. And by the mercy of Mahaprabhu's visit to Puri Dham, the traditional observance of the Chandan Yatra and Janmashtami and Radhastami were popularly celebrated at Sri Mandir beginning in the 16th century onward. And we find very few instances in the Gaudiya Vaishnava literature where references are made to Lord Chaitanya and Durga worship. In the Gita, it is said throughout Srila Prabhupada's teachings that we are instructed not to engage in demigod worship, but to simply worship Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So Durga Puja and Dashara are not observed in ISKCON temples, or at least they should not be according to Srila Prabhupada standards. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati again mentioned that this Durga Puja is not for enjoying ourselves. That isn't the point and purpose. In the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in Adi Leela, there's an interesting passage regarding the mood of Durga worship around Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So the translation was, one night while kirtan was going on inside Srivas Thakur's house, a Brahmana named Gopala Chapala, the chief of the non-believers, who was talkative and very rough in his speech, placed all the paraphernalia for worshiping the goddess Durga outside Srivas Thakur's door. So this so-called Brahmana Chapala, Gopala Chapala, he wanted to defame Srivas Thakur. And Srivas Thakur was highly venerated. So this person was highly envious. He was actually a worshiper of Bhavani, the goddess Durga. So these people generally, they're meat eaters, they're drunkards, they're attached to worshiping Durga, Kali, Sitala Chandi. And in general, there's just like some conflict because of their behavior and their enviousness towards the Vaishnavas. So Srivas Thakur, being well known and respected, it was Gopala Chapala's idea to reduce his prestige by bringing him down to the platform of the Shaktas. So he placed various paraphernalia for worshiping Bhavani that Bhavani is the wife of Shiva, such as a red flower. This is from the CC, a red flower, a plantain leaf, a pot of wine, and reddish sandalwood paste. He put it on his doorstep. So in the morning when Srivas Thakur saw all this paraphernalia, he immediately called. He called for the respectable gentleman of the neighborhood and showed him, just see what I'm doing at night. Feeling really sorry, these gentlemen called for a sweeper to cleanse the place and purify it by sprinkling cow dung. Actually, every time I read this, I was thinking how they understood it was wrong and they understood it should be taken away, but they called someone else to do it. So I was just thinking, if they were ISKCON men, they would have just got down and done it themselves, So anyways, while Durga worship is not recommended by our Sampradaya Acharyas, we understood that she is one of Krishna's devoted servants and she serves him diligently. And Chaitanya Madhya Leela 9, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 9, there are some holy places Mahaprabhu visited during his manifest Leela. And in his travels to South India at Sri Saila Parvata, Chaitanya personally met Lord Shiva and his wife Durga, who were in disguise as a Brahmana and a Brahmani. In another pastime at the home of Chandrasekhar Prabhu, in what is now known as Rajapatna, this is in the Adi Leela 10:13, the devotees were putting on a drama. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came on stage, but no one could recognize him. So through the Yogamaya potency, the Lord revealed his female forms, all the Shaktis, Rukmini, Durga, Lakshmi, Devi, and so many others, one after the other. So from the brief mentions from above, we can understand that the internal and external, or the superior and inferior potency of the Supreme Lord, are personified by Yogamaya and Mahamaya, respectively. And the name Durga refers also to that personality who functions as the internal potency of the Lord and who is thus on the platform of Sudasattva, pure transcendental existence, because she is diligently always serving Lord Krishna. So that is a few words about Durga Puja, and I hope you found them interesting and a little, help understanding a little bit about the duty of the demigod in the form of Durga. We're always talking about the Lord's material energy, but we don't always put a name or face on it. So when I was getting this information together, I started having a little bit more respect for the material energy, respect in the form of knowing that this personality is a great devotee, and what her service is Prabhupada, he would explain to us that it's her service to keep those persons who are only interested in sense gratification away from Krishna, and create situations where eventually they will come to their senses. A thankless task. So we're prisoners of choice who are living in the material world, but we have the opportunity to smash the locks for freedom simply by keeping our heads at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. If anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to share. You can raise your hand on the participants box. You can just use the raise hand feature, or you can type your question in the chat box. I had a question. I don't know if you can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. I had a quick question. Sometimes we tend to envision Durga Devi or the material energy as someone who is actively out to get us, especially if we're we're practicing devotion service and we're struggling with our material attachments, and we may feel that she's making us do things and she's intentionally coming on our way and she actually wants to see us fail as devotees, and this is like a very odd thing for Krishna to do, to empower such a powerful personality to put so many obstacles as if it wasn't hard enough as it is, to have this incredibly powerful personality always out to get us. So can you elaborate on that?
She's out to get you. She's out to get you out of the material world, but we don't want to go. We say we want to go, but we're just, hanging on a little bit, hoping maybe we can, adjust it enough. It's okay. We hear like balance. Balance means Krishna, right in the center, in all directions. But for us fools, balance means Krishna on this side and little Maya on sense grat on that side, A person in the guise of a devotee recently told another person who was a devotee and was struggling. And that person said, "Oh, it's okay. You can do the thing you want to do and worship Krishna too." Well, you can do that, but your worship to Krishna is going to be diluted by this other thing you want to do. And therefore, it's going to take a really long time. So Maya may come with her Trifala, that three-pointed trident, and prick you. Hey, Chief Jungle, wake up. What are you doing sleeping in the lap of the witch called Maya? But, you know, we have these, our little minds are trying to adjust everything to our temporary comfort, thinking that's going to be okay because, you know, chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It's okay, but you're not going to go back home, back to Godhead very fast. So we should be grateful she's out to get us because nobody else cares enough and we're not caring enough either.
Thank you. We have two more questions. We have one from Vijay Krishna Prabhu, followed by Rajesh Prabhu. Go ahead, Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madan Gopal Prabhu. Malati Devi Dasi Mataji, can you hear me?
Really well.
Mataji, my question is a simple question and a very short one. There is a very popular Vaishnava saying that says, Maya enters like a needle and comes out like a plow. And I do not know the meaning of this. Any help, please?
Well, I thought it was pretty self-explanatory. In other words, she captures you very subtly. That's in like the needle. And then she manifests her full glory, like, you know, a plow goes through rough earth and just, so she goes in, you don't even realize it because you're so happily going on with your life. And then you realize.
So when the plow is coming out, what is the meaning? The meaning is that I become very far away from spiritual realization.
It means you already have become distanced from spiritual.
Okay, now I understood. Thank you very much, Mataji. Wonderful
Wait
class.
a minute, but I see Vegavati's there, and maybe she could say something on this. No,
Yeah, she's on.
Unmute. No, I turned the camera off by mistake.
Okay.
I don't have an answer to that, but what I was thinking was when you were describing the play at Chandrasekhar's house.
Yeah.
I remember being there and hearing that whole pastime. And one of the things was when Lord Chaitanya was playing Goddess Durga, the person who was narrating said, actually, she can give love of God if we approach her for that.
Yeah.
We tend to think, oh no, I don't want to have anything to do. But if we approach in the right way. So just thank you so much for telling all those pastimes.
Quite briefly. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Mother Vegavati. We have a question from Rajesh Prabhu. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. So I have this question. It happens to be related to what I was reading yesterday. So I just thought I'll just ask. So I was reading with a friend this Bhagavad Gita chapter 252. In that verse, Prabhupada is writing that those who are practicing devotional service need not follow any Vedic rituals and sacrifices and the prescriptions in the Vedas and Upanishads. And then my friend asked that, okay, so there are these Vedas and Upanishads which prescribe different things to, based on what you're reading. So why cause this confusion if the end goal is devotional service to the Lord? So, I mean, my understanding was that I just said that, it leads you from karma kanda to karma yoga and all that. But I wasn't very satisfied with the answer that I gave. So I was just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
I'm just reading over looking at it. Anyways, there's always so many options available. And they're presented in the Gita in different ways. And, but at the end of the day, we follow Prabhupada's clear instructions to us, because we know if we've determined we want to go back to Godhead, then here's what we have to do. And at the same time, we've also found out that sometimes it's not as easy as we anticipated. Like, I didn't wake up a pure devotee the next day, after all, But carry on. There was just recently a little poem written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that was making the rounds. And it said, when you sit down to chant, if your mind takes you away, keep chanting, just keep chanting. And he gives all different, just keep chanting, In the same way, we have to just keep following Srila Prabhupada's unequivocal instructions. And in reality, they aren't that complicated. What's complicated is our little minds trying to dumb them down to our comfort zone. There's a Vaishnav who was in the line of Gaudiya Vaishnavas, but not in ISKCON. And I mean, the person was the first the first Westerner to actually become involved. And somebody had asked him about chanting. If it's does all what it says, well, why isn't it happening? And he gave a very short answer: because you're not interested. So sometimes we have to kind of push the reset button of our heart and ask us, what is it that we're actually interested in? Is it Krishna, or these other things where most of our time is actually flowing? And if we're honest with ourselves, whatever the answer is, it'll make it easier to correct ourselves. It may not be an instant correction because, we've been at our lives for a certain amount of years. And before that, there's a certain amount of lifetimes coming with all the little baggages with it. So it's kind of like when you see a great big ocean liner in the water, they don't make U-turns. They made big wide arcs. It takes a little, effort to turn around. In the same way, when we have so many habits and faulty desires, by faulty desires, I mean those disconnected from Krishna desires. And even though we think we want to change them, and in reality, we really do, but there's these other little things coming in. It takes a great effort. Just like the ship, it's a big effort to make a turnaround. So just keep on.
Yeah. Can I just ask one follow-up question? That's okay. So those who are sincere, like those who are sincerely seeking for truth, right? So I was grateful that I came in contact in Krishna consciousness, but not everybody would be very lucky. So those who are seekers of truth, they might end up with something which is not highly recommended, but that they might be following something else which is not, I don't know. So doesn't that cause confusion amongst those sincere seekers who are seeking truth, but they don't really ultimately find that, shelter of Krishna, rather get into something else?
Yeah, that's a reaction to their desires also. Some people, there's that saying that all paths lead to me. People are, and they like to use that as a way to not follow Krishna consciousness strictly, because everything's going to lead to Krishna eventually. So that can be confusing. Best to stick to Srila Prabhupada's instructions, and if those people want to be confused, Krishna's going to let them be confused because that's what they want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh.
This place is always going to be the material world. It's not going to be anything else. So we have to be prepared for all of these eventualities.
Thank you, Mother.
Like in these Upanishad, one must know the nature of transcendence along with the nature of nescience side by side. We don't want to follow and practice nescience, but we have to know what is what in order to avoid getting caught up again. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bhajananda Prabhu, for your question, and thank you, dear devotee, for staying on for this wonderful class, and thank you, Malati Prabhu, for giving us such a wonderful overview of Srila Prabhupada's teachings on Durga Devi. Just right while we're in the middle of this Durga Puja today.
Are you doing Durga Puja?
What's that?
Are you doing Durga Puja?
No, we're in the middle of it, meaning it's the day.
I understand.
Yes. Right. This is a way to observe it, the proper context, isn't it? So we really appreciate you bringing it in.
By becoming Krishna Bhaktas. That's how we honor Durga.
Thank you very much. So I would like to just request devotees to hold on for just another few seconds as we make the announcements, the regular announcements. So let's see my screen. So we have the upcoming series of lectures called Pathways to Perfection. We've already gone through quite a few of them. This is a 9 process of devotional service by our different very exalted speakers. So on October 24th, this is on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. to 10:30, we have Vandanam, which is the class given by Amarendra Prabhu. And the following Saturday is Dasyam by Madarchana Siddhi, and then like that, Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj and Sachinanda Swami Maharaj. So please do join 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. on the Bhakti Center Zoom channel, tinyurl.com/Bhakti Center. And on this channel, we've had, as we wrap up the week, we had some wonderful classes. So please note, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we have His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj, who's also present in our assembly today. He's giving the classes on second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then on this Sunday evening, we have Chaitanya Charan Prabhu to round out the week. So thank you very much. Please make a note, and we hope to see you here every night. And now I'd like to pass it on to all of you. If you'd like to unmute yourself and say a quick Haribol, I'll leave it open for a few seconds because it's getting quite late. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mother.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam Mataji. Wonderful class, Mataji. Hare Bol, Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Mother Malati, Hare Bol.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Malati.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Madhi Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Hare Krishna. Jai Malati.
I swear I haven't seen you in centuries.
Great to see you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks for the class.
Thank you. Wonderful presentation, Malati Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Grace Malati Devi Dasi ki jai.
Jai.
Lord
Hare Bol.
Bhakti Jai.
Haribol.
Ki jai.
Hare Krishna.